comes to mind when I think about my NYU experience in Paris is the moment I walked through the doors of the classroom. I was very late. I got to Paris literally that day. I think about 2 to 3 days into the program, and just said, "Hi, my name is Rashida Ashley. Sorry I'm late. A situation happened, and I'm glad to be here." Something along those lines, and class got started. Well, continued actually, because I kind of burst in, I guess, in the middle of class. Like as soon as I landed, I went straight to the hotel, which was right behind, luckily, the the building, and I threw myself in my room and then went straight to class. And I was just super excited. Like I couldn't believe I was in Paris. So yeah, that's kind of my experience of in the program, the beginnings at least. So okay, so what has networking at NYU actually looked like? So it was a little bit interesting for me. I would have to break it down because NYU is this really structured. I think of it as an umbrella. There's NYU, and then there's the schools within NYU, which is like ridiculously massive, in my opinion. But as far as my program, the Paris program, it's the first thing I experienced when it comes to networking is just the classroom. So, you have the lecture happening. Right before the lecture, you get like a small bio or introduction of the professor that's coming in to speak to us. And it was just really cool because you have authors who are coming from various different backgrounds, very different parts of the world, just coming in to speak in Paris, which is super cool. And that's kind of how the networking starts, I guess. And then after the lecture is over, it was always a crazy, amazing lecture that was really eye-opening. You like the instructor for that segment stays behind, and we all form a line formally to show respect for each person who showed up before, before themselves or before and we each get to ask at least like 1 or 2 questions, and then that's it. And then if they're open to it, you definitely have to be respectful about it. They would exchange contact information or something like that. Yeah, so that's just like my specific program, and which I would consider the umbrella for me because that was my way to enter into NYU. And then networking as far as my other passion, which is opera and music, that was a little interesting. So story time. I entered into NYU as a creative writer for fiction. That's how I entered. But I still have my music background. I can't trade the two. All my talents come together as one package. So that's what I love. So I'm not gonna let that go. And I was curious because I was self-taught as much as I could, given my busy, hectic life. I just got curious, and I just asked myself, like, how can I learn opera? That was the first thing, just asking myself the question, and then just really being open to it. It was just like, there's gotta be a way. There's gotta be a way. Like, I go to this amazing school. There's gotta be a way for me to learn. So I just reached out. First I Googled NYU Steinhardt, and which is the music school of NYU. And I just looked up all the professors, researched some of the directors, and I reached out to them individually per person. There's a few directors I reached out to just to express my interest in like learning and my dedication in learning opera over the years, and why I'm coming to them, like trying to learn. And then one person actually reached back out to me, and he was like, yes, you can learn opera. It's definitely doable, but there's a deadline that's coming up, so you have to apply soon. And luckily I took the initiative and asked and did the research and reached out to people about it, because if I hadn't reached out sooner, I would have missed that cutoff deadline. So it just really fell into the perfect moment, and I got in. I guess I wasn't a major for music or opera. I was a non-major, so there's a difference. So I was only learning opera for once a week for an hour, and I did that consistently for 2 years while I was writing my novel. Yeah, so that's another way you can network, you know, outside of your main disciplinary, at least for me. How did I navigate networking spaces that weren't initially created for a creative writer, soprano, singer like me? So the first thing is within the Paris program for my writer's master's degree. We had like an open mic event, and there were, of course, a lot of writers who performed, who did poems, short story readings, fiction reading, you know, of some work that they have been working on and dedicated themselves to. And I decided to sing Summertime from the opera Porgy and Bess, and it was just a way for me to just, you know, show how much I've grown as a singer and how I value writing and music. I feel like they should coexist in spaces like that, you know. Just I'm a lyricist, along with being a writer, and so writing and music goes hand in hand for me. It's not two separate things. So that was just one way I tried to navigate that space. And another one was through the NYU Leslie E Lab built space as well. This is the building for entrepreneurs, for business people, and I always thought of myself as an entrepreneur, especially when it comes to music and writing. And I wanted to be able to write and learn and connect with people through writing, and through attending panels and events, which NYU has an amazing panel. They always have something, a good treat to offer when it comes to panels and their events. So it's always really nice. And so I realized that there was a position that I wanted to create for the program they were doing, and I created a program. Well, not a program, a role, a writer role, for myself. And then after a small amount of time doing it, I release myself from the position, and I just wrote, I think something along the lines of, I really want this role to be given to the next creative who can contribute to our community. And I let go of the role. It was so much fun. It was for a short time, given the circumstances, but I've seen some inquiries since my time away from the program and from the role, and I'm glad that they're continuing it from what I've seen in the past. So yeah, that's how I navigated some spaces that don't typically have a creative writer, singer, soprano, as the forefront of what I'm offering when I'm presenting in these spaces. So yeah, there are a few things I wish I did differently while I was in the program and a little bit before I got accepted. The first was just research what not only the admission process looks like, but what the acceptance process looks like. Excuse me. So because I'm just getting back into the groove of being in school. So I did my undergraduate I graduated from my undergraduate program in like 2020, got into the program in 2022. And so much had happened. We went through COVID and everything. And I just wasn't, I don't know, I guess I was just sitting around waiting just to receive some information about like what my next steps were and stuff like that. And so, I didn't go about like talking to the financial aid, talking to the bursar, stuff like that. So I just should have been more pretty proactive about that, because, when I was younger, I was. And, I was just, going through a lot and just, but mind you, I got into the program on a whim. So I missed the deadline for the New York program, and I saw that there was still the application for the Paris-based program, and I was like, okay, I guess I'm applying for it. And then I just applied to the program on a whim, And that one short moment of like, okay, we can do this, of just believing in yourself, it was just like, okay. And then I got it. So I was like, oh my God. It was such a, just finding out to get, just being able to go to Paris, and like, that was my first time ever going out of the US on a plane, like, or, you know, whatever method you would leave the country. But man, like, that was so great. And then also, like, I guess another experience that I wish I did differently. Oh, so I was a part of the creative fellowship at the Leslie Lab as well. And I wish, some fellowships are funded, and this one that I was a part of was unfortunately not funded. So I later found out after leaving the fellowship program that there are scholarships available for people who are in fellowship programs who may not be funded, you know. So you know, you grow. I mean, there's more fellowships out there, I'm sure, but it would have been nice to know like what my options were in order to fund the project that I wanted to work on, and I'm still working on, you know. So there's that. Let me see. I wish I was able to just know what the acceptance process looks like, so I could go to the welcome dinner. I missed my first welcome dinner with my main cohort when I first got into the program. Yeah. So I was sad about that, and just going from, mind you, young African-American woman leaving the country for the first time while being late to class. Mind you, I love being late at class. Like, I love school. So like, missing class, being in a foreign country, traveling by myself, just getting broken up with. Mind you, my ex at the time had just broken up with me before I got to Paris. So I'm processing all these things while in a different country. I was just not ready to socialize with people in that program. And so that's another thing that I wish, on top of the welcome dinner that I missed, that I wish I just did, but it just wasn't the time. It wasn't the time. There was so much I was going through. And I'm the type of person, like, if I'm in a negative state, I try my best to not be around people or not talk to people, because it's you can read it on my face. There is something wrong and I don't want to talk about it, and it's gonna make everybody uncomfortable. So we don't do that. So when I'm in that mood, I just like to be by myself. It's just no you know, not to be offensive or anything, but that's just me taking time out to reflect and process things that are not easy to process. You know, while you're going, you have to have your responsibilities and go through your task and day and be a human, and, you know, pay rent and stuff like that. So that's kind of what I wish I didn't have to miss out on. Yeah. So there's something to be said about networking at NYU or any institution that doesn't initially have spaces that are typically made for you. I think this is sum up everything. Your output reflects who you are and what you do. You know, it comes back at a certain point. You know, there was a moment where we were trying to figure out the title I was going to be given when I, you know, was creating this role as a writer at the Leslie E Lab. And initially the title that the other team was leading to wasn't a title that I really agreed with. So that, I think for me as a writer, that was a major turning point. Just, you know, I'm a woman of color, but I'm also a writer, you know, I'm a woman color writer. So I think that really did play and still affects me. Like, I want my writing to influence and just I find different people, different groups of people, different cultures so fascinating, and just how, you know, the love is there, and and you know, how that translates into the food, the cooking, everything like that. So it just, you know, just how it relates to politics, the government, just the history of everything, how things were, you know, founded and stuff, or just, I just find that so interesting, and and when I found out that at that time, and shortly as I was processing it after, it was just like, I don't want to be confined to, I hate this is the color of my skin, you know, like I don't want to just write for just one community is what I'm saying. So and even while I was in the program, this was like a little bit after I was like ending my role as a journalist and just a blogger as well. I was writing blogs from my website, rashidashley.com, and I will be doing that, picking that back up occasionally as well. I'm trying to get into the habit of doing it more. But the question that was raised was that do I just hate people or not like people outside of my own race? And the answer is no. Like, I grew up around amazing people from different cultures. So that is to say, like I said, sort of circling back, it just reflects the work that it takes to build yourself as an artist, and how, like, is what I'm putting down what you're picking up, you know? And if it's not, what do I have to change in how I'm operating, how I'm presenting myself, how I'm communicating to you? You know, what do I have to change? And how do I show myself more respect? How do I show you more respect if there was any offense taken? And it, more than often than not, it's not intentional. So yeah, being a creative artist, for me in particular, has been very political. And it's because I willingly involved myself in that area, because of what I believe. And I believe in unity. I believe in love. I believe in hope. I believe in education. I believe in literature. I believe in music and what it can do and how it can affect people. So that's just some of the bare minimum stuff that I believe, along with other things. So being a master's degree student, creative student at NYU has been so eye-opening, especially to the world around me. Being in Paris, working with the mentor that I had, who was amazing, and well accomplished, and just a really good person overall. So it really was great. Yeah. What has been your biggest challenge networking in the creative space? Tell me in the comments. If this conversation resonated with you, if you are a creative person trying to figure out how to navigate spaces that were not built for you, I write a newsletter where I go deeper into these kinds of reflections. It is called The Flow Inner Circle, and it is a space for music, honest conversation, and the practice of showing up fully, even when the conditions are not perfect. The link is in the description. I would love to have you there.